have no idea where this will lead us, but I have a definite feeling it will be a place both wonderful and strange.
Hello, and welcome back to the Twin Peaks Logcast. I'm Kalil, and with me today is the snake to my bobber.
I don't think I should dignify that with a response, but regardless, I'm here suffering the Unplugged Professor.
Today we are looking at the second episode of Season 1 of the original Twin Peaks. This second episode, often referred to as Episode 1, Traces to Nowhere.
Yeah, this isn't confusing.
So, for the sake of you listening at home, when we say Episode 1, we do mean the second episode. So next time we'll be back with Episode 2, which is the third episode.
Are we going to do this for every single episode?
No.
So Episode 8, which is commonly referred to as Episode...
Our audience is very intelligent, and they will understand after this one notification. Unlike us, who are not as intelligent and will not understand this after one notification. So, would you like to start us off with one of yours, Unplugged Professor?
One of mine.
One of the things you noted while watching this episode blind for the first time.
Yep, I gotta say, watching it blind, I could not get any of the visuals, but it sounded like a lot of drama was going on. Jokes aside, though, first thing I gotta say, Laura Palmer is a freaking saint. As far as I'm concerned, she is perfect in every way, and that is what makes her one of the most suspicious beings I've ever seen. Apparently everyone loves her. Apparently she's done all sorts of kind activities like Meals on Wheels. She enjoys tutoring people in their English for whatever time they've got. And she gets to know people very well, especially the good doctor, Dr. Jacoby.
So yeah, I had written down as well her schedule, which we're going to learn more about as time goes on.
Does she actually sleep?
We don't know yet. We don't have confirmation, so I don't want to make any assumptions.
I feel like she gets her energy from the sun, so she just kind of is like
She is
solar
actually
powered.
a plant.
She is plants.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because she was wrapped like that bouquet you said. Mm-hmm. So Laura Palmer is literally a flower.
It's fitting, yeah. No.
Yeah. So we know that she goes to school. Mm-hmm. There are indications of that.
Yeah.
That I think it's twice a week she tutors Josie in learning English. Mm-hmm. I think we're told twice a week as well for Johnny. We're not sure which days of the week, I don't think, for either of them. Probably opposite days or something.
Yeah.
We know that she spends her time doing picnics with Donna and James, so James can practice his video skills.
Well, within the past, what was it, like 6 weeks
Yeah,
that they had
she had some time in her schedule in the past 6 weeks to add something to it.
Yeah.
She does date Bobby, so that's probably some sort of interactions she has with that kid.
I'm sure.
We also have that she does the Meals on Wheels with the Jennings, the Norma Jennings, or
the one who works at the diner. So
all the J's that she knows, right? We know
there's so many J's
James,
here.
Jacoby, Johnson, Jennings.
That's not ominous whatsoever.
Johnny.
Considering the significance of the letter J from the first episode, or the pilot.
And I hate to break it to you without spoiling anything, there is going to be more. She is not done with her schedule yet.
I have a feeling I know of another J character, but we're going to just move that off to the side.
Ooh, you don't even want to speculate?
Well, unless you want me to move on towards another one of my points.
Okay, no, let's keep going, because I think we have more to say about Laura being a saint, as you said.
Yeah, but as far as we are concerned, there is a lot of Laura going on. But
lore.
Yeah, a lot of lore going on, and that's just concerning.
Why is that concerning for you? Can't this girl have a life of her own?
It's the combination with just the way that she was behaving, especially close to the end, that kind of makes it seem that Laura was getting into stuff that she wasn't supposed to. Which makes even the idea for a specified murderer, I think that things are going to get really weird soon. To make more sense of that, I don't think we can really even account for a singular entity for being the cause of Laura's death.
It's one of those Julius Caesar scenarios. The whole town of Twin Peaks each stabbed her once.
No. It could be that. And I have no base grounding for this other than just the overall strange feelings, tones, and interactions that I get from some of the more insane people who are going quite mad. But there might even be bigger forces at play. I'm thinking of almost like H.P. Lovecraft style of madness coming on.
Okay. I'm sure we'll get more to that later.
Yeah.
So we know that she takes on all these odd jobs, and I think we'd all agree that, Meals on Wheels, helping someone learn English, helping someone, with special needs, those are all good things to do.
Yeah.
We also know that there was something that may or may not be cocaine in her journal, right? And different indications through either her voiced tape record we saw at the end with Jacoby, or just the things that Donna was saying. It seems like there might be something to what you're saying about her having some other side to it. If you had to kind of speculate, I guess, what do you imagine the real Laura Palmer might be like, given what you know so far?
If, as far as I'm concerned, she is a being that has transcended upon humanity and simply lurks amongst us, if you will, with a ever gray morality. I mean, let's just even like going back to Laura. Before her death, she had sexual relations with 3 men, apparently.
At least 3.
She has bite marks on her shoulder, as well as her tongue might have been involved with these sexual relations. Her overall tone is this strange, eerie, almost kind of like a droning sound. Just like, yes, Jamesy.
Jamesy, baby,
I love thee.
Wait, so this is actually the first time you've heard Laura Palmer speak, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you've seen her image in the pilot, but not her speak.
She has been spoken about from all out. Which, by the way, the way she speaks kind of still goes on my theory of this person being an otherworldly being. She does not speak like humans do.
I mean, does James, for that matter?
Yeah.
We'll get to him later, I'm sure, but...
Wait, are we talking about the same James, just like Biker James?
Yeah.
Yeah, he still speaks like maybe a little bit awkward, but...
Okay, he's still human.
Yeah, between Donna and James.
Like, I imagine like this is an Invader Zim situation in which the Zim alien is Laura, but unlike in Invader Zim, we don't have a protagonist who knows this. So we're left to speculate, is she even a human or is she an alien?
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but no, I'm still on the account that both James as well as Donna are the most normal people I've ever seen. Acting, whatever it may be. But yes, going back to Laura again. Everyone keeps talking about how she seemed different towards the end. How she understood how Mrs. Packard felt about Mr. Packard's death. That's not a normal thing to say. And the fact that she has $10,000 just in the security box. Something that she was involved with Bobby with, who Bobby may have killed someone in.
Why? Bobby is an upstanding gentleman.
Sure, we can believe that as long as we want. But no, there's so much going on with Laura that at this point I'm swimming in Laura and I don't know where to go.
Laura, in fact, may be the one, as someone might say.
Yeah, sure.
One thing I found kind of interesting to maybe talk about is we got the pilot, and we talked before about how, I don't know, maybe like over a half hour or so of the pilot is dedicated to this grieving process for the whole town. We see it with the Palmer dad and mother. We see it with her friends at school. We see it with just literally almost everyone in the whole town, shutting down the factories, shutting everything down, and the way in which the town is grieving. Then we get Cooper at about 36 minutes in, and the investigation more formally starts. And despite the pilot being, about the length of 2 episodes combined, I don't necessarily know if a ton happened. It's a lot of establishment. So I was kind of curious to talk about what we feel the purpose narratively of this episode is. Now, obviously, I have a bit more hindsight knowing where the series goes after this, but just looking at this in a vacuum, if you're following up episode 1, the pilot, with episode 1, the second episode. Well, yes, we're there. We're there. We're fine. It makes sense. It's all good. It's good, man. If we're gonna follow up the pilot with this kind of an episode, what does this episode do? What does it do with what the pilot left it?
It's almost like a little bit of a slow crawl. We're just kind of like branching out from the pilot. Just kind of think of the pilot with how much is established. It's the potted plant. This is stuff that's starting to sprout up. We've got recently James is out of jail, as well as Bobby and our good pal Snake. We have more information on Leo, on how he's doing and what he does.
Which is take care of his clothes and his home and try to help his wife learn to be a better housekeeper.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Make sure to know where to put the socks and the soap. We got more establishment on just some of the characters, on what they're trying to go plot and move forward with, especially the gentleman who was trying to get the Norwegians on his side.
Benjamin Horne.
Benjamin Horne, thank you. And a little bit more information with Dr. Jacoby, but I want to wait with the Dr. Jacoby thing towards the end.
Sure, sounds good.
I got some ideas.
Yeah. I guess what I find interesting also is that the pilot sets up a main storyline with Laura, but then also does sprinkle in a room for parallel plot lines. And seeing how this episode, I don't think there's hardly anyone in the pilot that isn't touched upon in some manner or speaking in this episode. So seeing it kind of have to continue all the things that the pilot started. And just like before, we noted how there was the storylines all connected to the Laura Palmer situation because everything with James and Donna does connect directly to Laura.
Yeah.
And obviously Cooper and the sheriff connect directly to Laura.
Yeah.
But then we awkwardly have the Packard Mill situation. And I think we can add to that this episode that Audrey is coming into her own as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to see how, while the focus is definitely still in the investigation, I would say that not quite almost as much, but definitely a good chunk of this episode is on the Packards and the Horns. And I think that's really interesting because as of right now, they're not as directly connected to Laura.
Not to mention, we're establishing more things with fire.
Yes, Sparkwood.
Yep, Sparkwood. We're going to be, God, I forget. Benjamin Horne, right?
We're going to start a little fire.
Yeah, Benjamin Horne.
Talking about business or pleasure. I don't know why both Catherine and Ben sound the same, but they do.
They basically sound the same at this point. They've got the same wavelength going. And
Come on, I think Benjamin's the kind of guy that would totally, like, if he could clone himself, he'd be into himself.
No, honestly, as far as it goes, we're just really getting ready for fire. Fire burns much brighter. I would say going on about how about we just go back because we had a lot more Leo content.
Which is always appreciated. We love ourselves some Leo.
Sure.
The L in Leo stands for love. E stands for every time. And O stands for, oh, I love Leo.
No. I think that the O stands for, oh, take that as you will. I think that I've got concerns for Leo and his tendencies to potentially murder.
All jokes aside, we do not officially support domestic violence here on the Wonderful and Strange Logcast. I just want to make that clear. We'll joke, but Leo definitely, of all the characters, there are some who seem a little bit sinister. There are some who seem a little nefarious, or at the very least lecherous. But Leo Johnson is the only one so far, I think we can all say, who definitely is a horrible person. Like, you could have some redemption arc maybe later. I won't spoil if that happens or not. But at this exact moment, he is a terrible person. We don't know the blood stain, but we do know about the soap.
Yep, he's got his favorite blue shirt, if you will, that has the large blood stain on it. Apparently, this is the second one that got lost. So this has happened before. I imagine that just from how subtle he is, he probably, on the back of that shirt, is just says, I beat my wife. I'm pretty certain on that. If I'm proven wrong, I'll be proven wrong. But no, he doesn't seem like a good person. And the fact that Bobby and Snake are somehow mixed in with him and that owing
Bobby
him money.
And Bobby's very adamant that, you don't know Leo Johnson. Like, Bobby's afraid of the guy.
Yeah, as far as it goes, like, Bobby is afraid of him. He owes him money, apparently $20,000 worth. And Bobby said something earlier about, or I can't remember who said it. I'm pretty sure it was Bobby from the pilot episode, about killing a man.
Yeah.
So I have a mild idea where that money is going.
So one thing also I find interesting about this, I'm losing my train of thought. Which,
by the way, while you do get that train of thought going, I just want to add one more thing to that. Owes $20,000. Bobby paid half for it. And the other half is somehow in Laura's account. Again, Laura connection towards something a bit frightening.
Yeah, what I remember now, what I think is really interesting is to kind of counterbalance this, though. When Truman does introduce Leo verbally to Dale Cooper, explains who he is, he says he has a minor rap sheet. So from the law enforcement perspective, because this is a small town, supposedly at 51,000, more like 5,000, but whatever they say, everyone knows everyone in this town. And despite all that, all the law enforcement know about him is that he has a minor rap sheet. When it came to looking for suspects in the murder, they didn't like seek him out from the beginning. Like they sought out James, they sought out Bobby, but Leo, he has a minor rap sheet, not a threat to society at all.
Well, you know, in the small town of 50,000, we have to consider about like the murder of Laura was pretty bad, but murder of other people, how bad is that? What is the legality?
Exactly. Laura's worth at least 10 people.
Yep, Laura's way more than 10 people. She dedicates her life to so many people. So many.
That's fair.
But yeah, regardless, I'm interested to see where Leo is led and what more things we can learn about Bobby and Laura. More fun.
To touch upon that one a bit, going back to Leo, because I do think
we can still be on Leo.
No, I think I want to talk about the people around Leo more so.
Okay.
So I think we've covered what we want to with Leo, but I do think it's interesting to think about Shelley and Bobby and Norma and all this, because one thing that I thought was interesting upon rewatch is Norma has to know about this, because thinking of the way in which we were about to see Shelley go to work when suddenly she has to do another load of laundry for Leo. And in the way they act, this is not an uncommon situation.
Yeah.
For whether it's laundry or something else, we get a pretty clear picture, I think, that Leo Johnson's the kind of guy, if he needs something done, you can go to work later. You know, his life, his every need kind of supersedes her job.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure they rely on the money because they have like a place to keep up. I'm sure they do use the money from her job to support themselves. But at the end of the day, his laundry comes first.
I don't know about that, man, because apparently if he's getting paid $20,000 an hour to do mystery things...
That is true. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe the money's not for that. Maybe it's just for the cigarettes she buys.
Yeah.
But the fact that
different brands.
Like the thing is though is that Norma has to know about this for how frequently that seems to happen. And there's a moment in the pilot where Bobby even says, I think she knows about us. And Shelley's like, Norma? He's like, yeah. No, I think she's hot to trot for you herself. And then they make out, and blah, 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 blah. All that lovey-dovey stuff.
Yep.
But I do wonder, does Norma know about Leo and how bad he is? Does Norma know about Bobby? Does she kind of is she okay with the whole Bobby thing? And that's why because obviously if Norma does know about all this, the last thing she'd probably want to do for Shelley's safety is to tell Leo. So I don't know. I don't have any grand thoughts. I mean, obviously we'll see as we go on. I just think it's interesting to view Norma as kind of the fourth party here, who's an older, almost mother-like figure, it seems like, who is her employer, but has to have some idea that Shelley's life is a wreck. Which I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting thing to notice.
Which is completely fair. How we go a little bit into Dale Cooper. We got to see just a little bit more fun Dale Cooper mannerisms.
Yes.
What do you think he was doing at the beginning of the episode? Like
he was exercising.
He was definitely keeping himself stationary. It could have seemed like exercising, but I like to think that he just likes to sleep like a bat sometimes.
That's a thing though. That exercise, where you hook yourself up and do the crunches or whatever.
I didn't see him crunching. I thought that's just his morning routine.
Yeah, you pull yourself up.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see pull itself up. But, he was just hanging there, speaking to his
Gets the blood to your head.
Yeah, I think that's more it. Effectively, he's getting himself nice and ready so that the blood can slowly trickle down as the day goes on.
Or he's a vampire and he slept upside down.
I would not be surprised at this point.
He says he likes his coffee black as midnight on a moonless night. Who else likes moonless nights? Vlad, Dracula himself.
I thought, don't vampires like the moon?
That was more... Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, this is... Beyond vampires, Dale Cooper overall still continues to interest me. He seems to be overshadowing Shepard a little bit, and Shepard kind of...
Shepard?
What's his name?
Truman?
Truman.
Sheriff Truman?
Who's Shepard?
There's a character in Lost named Shepard.
Oh, okay. No, this is Truman.
Okay.
Truman is the true man.
Yeah.
Truman feels a little bit overshadowed, going by saying that he's about to take up medical matters just to take up the name Dr. Watson for him.
Well, it's beyond the point of even that, yeah, Cooper's leading the investigation, but Cooper's so far ahead of Truman that even when they're sitting on the couch together, he already knows that who, like, the sheriff's having an affair with, basically. I shouldn't say an affair, because Truman is not married to our knowledge, and Josie, her husband's been dead for a year and a half, so is that really an affair? I don't know. But whatever the romance situation is, Cooper's so far advanced into the intuition side of things that he even knows about Truman's personal life. I mean, after been there for like a day.
I mean, right at the beginning of the episode, we ended up seeing his interaction with the Horne daughter.
Yes.
If you will.
Audrey.
And again, things are just snapping on so quickly. Still makes Dale Cooper incredibly suspicious to me, but hey.
Okay.
Overall, he's still a lot of fun. I'm curious whether or not, like, that pie was better, like the best in the tri-state as promised. Hopefully we'll get reference back to that later. So.
Okay. As we kind of cycle through the different characters that seem to be focused on with this episode, I guess I do want to spend more time looking at, you mentioned, the Horne daughter, Audrey. Like I said before, she was definitely a focus here. I think it's interesting we get two parallel contradicting storylines as far as Audrey's involvement with Laura. She tells Cooper early in the episode that they weren't exactly friends, right? But then you also do get indication later when she's talking to her father, in admittedly kind of a sarcastic conversation overall. But when he's asking her about what happened with the Norwegians, she does say that she said that she was sad that her dear beloved friend Laura Palmer had been brutally murdered. So she does like to play up in certain audiences how close she was with Laura, and then in other audiences, no, we didn't really know each other that well. So which do you believe is true of Audrey as far as Laura is concerned?
As far as I think it's less on Laura's concern. As far as I'm concerned, Audrey plays her cards of emotion in such a way that will bring forward a certain attention to her, but I'm not entirely clear on what that attention is.
Okay.
Even while that she's speaking to her father about it, who seems to have a gap with her and even claims that
he lost her years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, effectively, it seems like there's almost this sense of gravitate towards attention to that. How much Audrey resents her father or how much she wants her father to recognize him, I don't know yet. I think I need to see more on that. But I think that there's an element of that in play, if you will, as she plays her cards. Going up towards Cooper earlier on, I don't know how much she's trying to play towards the attention of her brother and so on, because she was playing up a little bit of a sense of a sympathy card alongside while being mildly flirtatious to him. So it seems like she's playing a game, but I don't know all the pieces.
So part of it also is we don't really know what Audrey's like with enough people at this point. She seems to have a sort of flirtatious demeanor with most people she talks about, in the sense that she's very coy. She's very, doesn't let on the full extent of her knowledge and is willing to use sort of roundabout methods. Like even the way she handled the Norwegians, she likes to be a little bit more manipulative. So I guess I was going to ask you one of the things about her is, what did you think of the interaction with Cooper and the way that was presented? Because obviously Cooper's demeanor was different with her than he has been with the majority of people he's met so far.
So far, she's been more outward, if you will. Like she seems to be coy around a bunch of people, but especially around Dale Cooper. I think that it came out a lot more in that sense. I don't think that there is going to be some sensation or fling beyond it, but I do think that there is going to be this sense of unstoppable force meets an immovable object of just them.
So this is a Death Note Light and L situation.
Kinda, but I don't think in that sort of realm. I think that there's going to be some sort of subplot coming up between the both of them that will really push their personalities.
And one thing also, I guess, going back to not Cooper, but just Audrey in general, you brought up her brother. When she's asked about it, that he's, 27 years old and in the third grade, she tells Cooper that he has emotional issues, which I think is really interesting because we're not led to believe that his issues are an intellectual disability. We're led to believe there's some sort of emotional thing at root. And then she makes the weird, ominous comment, it runs in the family, which we've met the mom very briefly. Otherwise, the Hornes we have left are Audrey and Benjamin. And Audrey, we know, spends her free time standing in her room, gently swaying to quote unquote racket, which I guess is like jazz music.
Was that her room? The desk?
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like her dad's office. Probably.
Yeah. It looked more like she was just intruding on her dad's office again.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, when you have that idea that emotional issues run in the family, what do you think she meant by that? Because obviously Johnny's a more like outwardly severe case of that than Benjamin and Audrey, or the mother, seem to be. What do you think Audrey's hinting at with that explanation?
I think that we're going to get some more information eventually on the brother who was a little bit torn up, wearing the headdress and slamming his head into Johnny slamming his head into the side of a dollhouse. But I think that we're also going to be getting more information on the father. I think that not all has been revealed about Benjamin.
What if we never see Benjamin Horne ever again? He was a 2-episode character. Not important at all. He's just done. How would you feel?
I would feel a little bit betrayed just because of all this sort of promise he's kind of building up.
I'm sure most people who know Benjamin Horne have felt betrayed at one point.
He seems to be a B-plot villain. And,
okay.
I am looking forward to seeing more of him.
Sure.
But between the sort of emotions we've seen with him, with his affair, with emotions with his daughter, and the way that he sort of suspends himself with the things around him, he's just a very interesting, iffy individual.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thanked you for that.
Oh.
I appreciate your comments.
Oh,
you
my
flatter me.
On a podcast?
I am flattered.
Made a new one. I've got mainly one very interesting take, but I think I'm going to be saving that for an end. Do you have much else do you want to say?
I have like the rest of my sheet of notes.
Okay, go on.
So dear listener, pardon while I take the wheel here. So we talked around them, but I want to talk about Donna and James more. I have less to say about Donna. James, I think we should open up a can of worms on him. Donna claims that like she's Laura's best friend. And I say claims because we don't know, and I don't want to give credence either way. So she claims that no one really knew her better than she did, and maybe James as well, and that it feels to her like she's having the most beautiful dream and the most horrible nightmare all at the same time.
Great line, by the way.
Which is a great line. And she confides in her mother, who doesn't even know who James is, which I think is interesting. So however close they've been, Donna hasn't really told her mother about James. And then she does. And she feels kind of like a terrible person because, you know, the literal day she finds out her best friend is dead, she makes out with her best friend's, well, one of her best friend's boyfriends. Yeah. The secret one, who supposedly they were in love.
Well, technically they're single now, so
yeah, single as of a day.
Yeah.
Part of the
bounce back.
You know, part of the grieving process does involve making out with the dead person's loved ones. It happens to all of us.
You're saying that in a tone that I should feel guilty about.
Maybe Donna should. I don't know. I wanted to kind of ask you about that because then we get, after she talks to her mom, one of the next times we see her, Donna brings James to meet the mom and dad, which, you know, in a lot of relationships is a sign of, you know, kind of, you know, meeting the parents is a big deal. So this is day 2 to our knowledge of their relationship.
Well, yes. My question is that maybe I missed something, but I know that Ed set something up just to make sure to keep him safe, especially with everything going on. Did he set up like him staying over there, or is there something else?
See, I don't know. A curfew is kind of confusing because we don't really know what time the exchange happens. We know there was a curfew set after the murder.
It's late at night. At the very least, maybe, like, being very generous, it might be 6 in the evening and it's just super dark, but...
It's around dinner time.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. I guess it could be that, they're hanging out, and then as soon as it gets close to curfew, it kind of returns back. Either way, a little weird.
Maybe Ed is protecting them with ninjas?
Yeah.
Just ninjas in the darkness?
There was an idea that when Ed was talking... I can't remember if it was to the sheriff or was to James, about the idea of kind of being on patrol. So there's a sense that maybe Ed is looking out in some way or another.
Because like right now, even with the threat that Billy... there's so many names!
Oh, no, not
Bobby.
Billy. Billy the kid.
Bobby.
Yeah.
There are
a lot of
Bobby
characters.
and Snake just kind of being out and about, even being threatened by Connor earlier.
Connor?
Okay, now Dale Cooper.
Connor. I think of the Home Improvement character. Anyway.
Okay, but still, Cooper made a threat towards them, and still, regardless, Snake and Bobby are out and about, ready to lay the smackdown
Yeah,
on
James is in more danger than usual because Ed was just attacked by those people recently too. So if they attacked Ed, they sure as heck would attack James. Anyway, whole story short, I think what's interesting also is that I have a feeling Donna's mother must heard the story, embraced her daughter. Yes, I understand why you feel guilty. Hey, bring the boy over tonight for dinner. So obviously the Hayward mom and probably the dad too, they're like, you know what? Yes, people grieve in their own ways. If our daughter needs to go and suddenly impulsively date this boy who was the true love of her dead best friend, it's a normal thing. It's just part of the grieving process. Do you think Donna and James are doing anything wrong in what they're doing?
As far as it goes, it seems that they had an emotional attachment beforehand and they are latching on to one another. So, maybe being foolish teenagers and rushing into something, but I don't think it's wrong to try to be close with someone you feel close to in the sight of loss.
As Elvis said, only fools rush in.
Did he say that?
Isn't that the lyric from that song?
I don't know Elvis.
Okay.
He has good hair.
Yes, he does. On that note, James in general. Let's talk about James and not his hair.
Well, again, as far as James goes, still concerned how he's being watched out for. I'll be honest, throughout my whole time seeing it, especially with the log lady interims, I've been trying to keep an eye out to see if the log is ever separate from the lady. Are you assuming, is this going to connect to James in some way? Is James the log?
Ed
was supposed to hire someone to watch after him. So I'll be honest, I've been looking for that log to see if he asked the log lady to watch after him and just have the log just somewhere in the scene.
Would you feel more safe if the log lady is there, the log, or the log and the log lady?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't feel safe, but at the same time, this is a strange enough town, and apparently the log knows a lot of things.
Yeah. My segue, which you interrupted, my natural flowing segue was going to be, speaking of hair, I love the moment when James is talking to Laura in the past, and she's like, James, do you know why I'm so happy today? It's because you smell so good and your hair's so soft. And then she's just like, no, it's not that. It's because you love me. And I just think that, what we know of James, right? He doesn't have any criminal record. He says he tried to get Laura off of cocaine. He seems like a good boy. He seems like a nice biker boy.
But he
has a budding interest in film.
But
clearly.
He's also a dumb boy.
He's also very stupid. And Laura, from just a little bit of the tape, he's so sweet, but he's
Dr.
so
Jacoby.
For Dr. Jacoby, which we're building up tension for Dr. Jacoby.
Bom, bom, bom.
Yes, and I just think it's really interesting, the two different perceptions here. James doesn't seem to pick up on the idea that she thinks he's an idiot. Mm-hmm. And I think, at least in my heart, I understand where Laura's coming from. Mm-hmm. He does seem sweet, but he also does seem really dumb. And then I think to James's upbringing, we know his mother's mysteriously not around, and then we have him left in the natural and nurturing environment of Ed and Nadine, which, Ed seems like a nice guy, but when it came to emotional reassurance, all Ed could do was awkwardly hug him and say, I'm so sorry, or was that Donna he did that to? But either way, I don't sense Ed is the normal sensitive type. He doesn't really know how to express his feelings.
I think that was a little bit too much emotion there. You kind of channeled the Jolly Green Giant.
I'm so sorry.
Green Giant.
And then you got Nadine, who I think her emotions are a bit more clear, but they are very singular and they are very focused on running drapes.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that James resorts to riding his motorcycle around the town and spending time away from home, given his home life is unstable. Not in the sense of necessarily abusive or bad, but Nadine and Ed don't seem like a stable household.
I also have to be curious on how close Ed is with, his name isn't Shepard. His name is Truman.
His name is Truman. Good job. Harry S. Truman.
The fact that Truman even knows about Ed's affair, I don't know how necessarily close the two are. I don't know how much knowledge is out and about.
Okay.
All I know is probably Nadine is more concerned about making sure cotton balls are making her drape silent.
Yes.
More than anything in the outside world. How this is going to affect things later, is curious, but I probably would be similar to James and probably stay out of this complicated situation.
Sure. Shifting gears, we've covered most of the, I think, main focal characters of this episode. We've covered Laura, Bobby, James, and Donna. And we're obviously, again, building suspension for Jacoby toward the end. So just looking at a few of the side characters, which, again, I'm looking for kind of everyone during this whole thing. We get our first vocal lines from the character. You don't know his name yet, but his name is Major Briggs. That is Bobby's father, who sits at the table wearing his military jacket with opera music playing quietly in the background.
Yep.
And he gives how would you describe, I guess, Major Briggs' speaking?
It is a very calm and eerily supportive demeanor.
Yes. So he basically, says that he understands that young people have a certain rebellious nature and that he thinks it's natural. And in fact, he confidentially, he does think that it's courageous in some aspects. But he knows he has to rein Bobby in for the law. He can't have Bobby breaking laws of society, but also for the laws of the family. And he's very clearly trying to get Bobby's attention. And Bobby, as Bobby do. As Bobby do, Babadook, he takes out his cigarette and he's about to smoke. And what does Major Briggs do?
Backhands it straight into the meatloaf.
Straight into the meatloaf.
I think it was meatloaf.
And just continues back in that calm demeanor, a little agitated now. He's a patient man, but his patience has limits. And then he says the kind of vaguely threatening, but also reassuring tone. The vaguely threatening, reassuring tone of a father.
That's Briggs.
Saying, everyone in their life, their mission is to find their path in life, and I'm going to make yours very clear. So what was your first impression of Major Briggs and his goal of making his son's life mission and path very clear for him?
So far, I'm loving it. There are various different styles and relationships throughout Twin Peaks, and there's not really two that are too much alike. And to have this very appearing in strict and appearing in a very military-like fashion individual.
Literally.
But at the same time put up the over-supportive role of a really involved father. Honestly, I'm loving Briggs.
Okay.
Thus far. I don't know how much more involved he's going to be getting in with Bobby, but I hope it's a lot soon because Bobby's in some really deep poop.
If knowing what you know of Bobby, if you would have been asked before, what do you think his father's like? What do you think you would have guessed Bobby's dad is like?
Distant. I didn't even think his father would be that involved.
Sure. Whereas Briggs, among other things, does seem to care.
He does seem to care. He seems involved. His mother also seems involved.
Yes.
Briggs just has the bigger presence, but he seems to have very kind and supporting parents for the most part.
Which is good for him. He needs that. Speaking of kind and supporting parents, Sarah Palmer, she's going through the grieving process in her own way. Unlike Donna, she is not making out with one of Laura's boyfriends, thank goodness. Although I can't spoil in case there's a Sarah Palmer, Bobby Briggs love triangle happening later. I can't spoil that one. But she's talking with Donna, and then as they're talking, she sees Laura's face graphed onto Donna's face, and then she looks over and sees I don't know how you want to describe this man, but sees an individual. I guess I want to know what your thoughts are on that. And just expand.
I want to leave that to the end.
Okay.
That is one of my big notes towards the end.
Okay, making tension building ending comments. Cool. We'll save that. I don't have much to say on this next one then, I guess. We saw Detective Hawk, that's the Native American officer. He is over talking to the Ronette Pulaski parents, and then he sees this guy leave an elevator with one arm, the one-arm man.
Yep,
and
into a blue room.
He follows him to the morgue oxygen area,
yeah.
And then just kind of loses track of him. I think it's really interesting that Hawk just pursues him. We don't know who this guy is, and does Hawk have any reason to go after him? Because he kind of he's in the middle of talking to the parents of a victim who may be the same perpetrator as the one who killed Laura Palmer. You think a very important conversation. It just kind of suddenly abruptly, sorry, I have to go right now. Just hightails it after the one-armed man toward the morgue.
I wouldn't even call it hightail. He takes a casual pace towards it. Now,
it was brisk.
Please, that was not brisk. But anyway, he, this old man with just one arm just walks down a hallway, if you will, and it seems like there's only one thing down that hallway, and that's the oxygen room and the morgue. He walks down towards that general direction, but when he does walk down along, a fair distance from him, when he makes his way through the door, the camera pans towards showing that there's the morgue and the oxygen room. The room's entirely blue, and there's this strange pod that's off on the side, likely to transport bodies and whatnot. Seemed like something may have been in it, but it was too hard to see with the darkness. And then he just looks both ways and walks out. I don't know if that was just supposed to be more so of an audience transition to kind of like introduce this character?
We did see him in the pilot.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't
He was
remember
very
him.
briefly in the pilot.
Okay.
And again, for listeners, we had watched the original pilot, not the international.
And as far as it goes, he just starts walking down this hallway, so I imagine he's just following to see what he's doing. He might not be a recognized individual in here, but I also don't know who gets access to the morgue or...
Everyone. It's a communal morgue.
It's a communal morgue. Oh,
you know,
that's so
anyone who
sweet.
needs access. It's like a public park.
He might be the one-armed electrician that's going to help with that little blinking light from the pilot.
Perhaps so. And then I also have one I want to end with. So I have second to last one, and then I'll let you do your big one, and then we'll end on mine if you don't mind.
Oh, if we just before we get towards this area on towards this small question, do we know much about the character that may have drugged Ed?
No.
Okay.
Wait, we got a name of Jacques Renault.
Yep. So we
which
got
is a
name.
J, but
It
it's
is
a
J.
it's a French Canadian J.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What is that implying? Is that a suspicion or lack of?
Does that count as a J?
Well, yeah. No, it's a J name.
Well, because phonetic alphabet, it's a different writing.
it's a
Anyway,
J name.
so anyway, my question before we get to your final and my final, my last mini one. Did you have any thoughts on the fish in the percolator? It's kind of, and you wouldn't know this, it's kind of a fan favorite line. It's one of the most referenced parts of the show, and I think it's interesting viewing with someone. Exactly. Viewing with someone who doesn't know the Twin Peaks community, I think it's fun to see what sticks and what doesn't. So I won't always reveal like, hey, this one's a big one, but this one is a big one. Not for anything I can really say is spoilery, but I did want to ask because it is obviously weird and it's drawn attention to, and they do call back to it later at the diner.
Yeah.
What did you think about the fish in the percolator? Did you read into it in any significant way?
Well, this
or
was-
is it just a goof?
Now, tell me if I'm mistaken, but this is the man who discovered Laura's body, right?
Correct.
He went off fishing.
Correct.
So I imagine he's just an avid fisher, so he goes ahead and collects fish. I'm concerned of the living situation more than anything, just because of like where you would store like things like fish or the water or anything like that, and somehow it gets into the coffee area. Like, does he just reuse and filter the water that he gets from fishing?
Well,
or?
what's also weird is that we know that Josie was the one who's going to make the coffee for them. So, Josie, what are you doing? Your man's in the living room. He wants some coffee. You don't put fish in it, Josie. I don't, maybe in her Japanese, Chinese, whatever culture they're trying to convey Josie as. And I don't mean this in a racist way. I mean, I know that the actress is a different nationality than what they put her as.
It seems like you're leading down a racist path.
No, what I'm saying is, in Twin Peaks, I don't think they normally put fish in their coffee. And Josie, I don't know what she was doing. But aside from that, I actually thought you were going to lead to a really interesting metaphor, so I'm going to pretend you did. You were saying, how Pete discovers the body. Does that mean that, metaphorically speaking, that the fish in the percolator is Laura?
It certainly is fishy like
That
Laura.
she is the fishy thing that is... Or maybe not necessarily Laura herself, but the mystery of her death is the fish. That it is the thing rotting and flavoring the town.
I would say it is definitely a strange flavor that's at the taste of everyone's mouth. For more worse than better.
Okay. All right. We built up enough suspense, I think, to go to your final talking point. Go ahead and lead the way, Professor.
Okay, so here's the complicated mess in my head. The gentleman that we see suddenly shocking Laura's mother is a figure that she is just outright distraught about. She just goes straight up screaming over this person. Long hair, jean jacket, just staring right back at her. Probably a vision. I don't think that there is a man leaning there literally.
And to remind the audience again, if you missed the first episode, I just want a reminder. When we watched the original pilot, I did bring his attention to the window at the end of the pilot episode. So that was something I told him to pay attention to. Just heads up.
So if whether or not that is actually the Klingon, he has a presence with Laura's mother. At the end, when Jacoby's listening to the little message and we kind of like get shot out of in the middle of the message when she starts bringing up the man in the woods. And later on, we actually do see Jacoby opening up the coconut to reveal half the heart. I genuinely do not believe that is the same half heart that we see the person in the woods pick up at the end of the pilot. That person's wearing a jean jacket, just like Mr. Longhair, which leads me to believe that there isn't just one heart.
Ooh.
I'm thinking that so far, like Laura specifically, like takes this heart and then snaps it in half and gives that half to James. But who's to say how many necklaces she potentially had?
We find out that every person who lives in Twin Peaks has half of Laura's heart.
Again, I would not be surprised, but I don't think that this man in the woods has connections to Dr. Jacoby. I could be proven wrong. She does give a report to him about it, and maybe they have a really good working relationship.
I like the idea that it cuts very dramatically one time to Pete learning that everyone had a copy of the heart, and he's like, I thought I was special. I thought Laura and I had a connection. And then he just starts weeping and...
No, I think that so far, if I had to make a guess, I imagine that the three people that she may have... no, actually, I can't even say that. Because by James's account, unless he's lying, the day that she seemed different, they met about 9:30, and at about 12:30, while he was at a light, she jumped off the motorcycle. So unless there was some relations going on between those 3 hours that he just didn't mention, despite her distance, maybe those hearts could be connected towards those three peoples, including James. Maybe not. But the fact is that James and Donna were in the middle of the woods, seemingly alone, and that was my main concern for thinking the person who picked up the heart may have been Dale Cooper, because they were the only ones on the trace. But if there's a mysterious person wandering around the woods and coincidentally came across this situation, or has mild knowledge of people about, that gives it more opportunity for this person to have found that said half of the necklace. And the fact that also Dr. Jacoby could have a half of a necklace, I can't imagine any different way than multiple necklaces.
Food for thought, may or may not relate. Earlier when Sheriff Truman, also known as, what did you call him earlier? Sherman or something? Or
Shepherd.
Shepherd.
For some reason, he looked like a shepherd.
He looks like he could herd some sheeps.
He could look, he's definitely trying.
So when Shepherd goes over to Ed, who's in the sheriff's station, he says, how's the coconut? And, that's referring to Ed's noggin, which has a little bit of a boo-boo. But then we also see at the end of the episode, Dr. Jacoby with a coconut that has half a heart in it. Could the coconut, as the head, be metaphorical of the psychiatrist opening the head and finding Laura within? Could you do something with that? Or am I grasping at straws?
You're really not grasping at straws. Literally, the tape says, love Laura. He starts being emotional at the end.
Well, emotions are interesting because is it a cry or is it a laugh? Because I've always thought that was interesting. You really can't tell exactly what his reaction is.
You can't tell, but it's an extreme emotional reaction.
It is an emotional reaction of one kind or another, or both simultaneously.
But whether or not it is both one or the other, it's still opening up the mind and sort of discovering that sense of emotion, if you will. I don't think it matters what emotion, except for personal takes, if you will, or personal thoughts on Dr. Jacoby. But I think it still is clear that there is this firm attachment, and being inside the coconut, I feel, is an intentional choice.
So what we can say then is that the mind is a coconut, Laura is in everyone's coconuts, everyone has a piece of Laura in their coconuts, and that Laura's death is truly the fish in the percolator that is the town.
Or we are just going by coincidence, and he just really likes tropical things, especially with his little tie.
I actually really dig his little office space. It's the most vibrant area, because I'm so sick of seeing, nothing against the Great Northerns decorating. It's great, but so many wooden birds and just wood in general. Seeing the Hawaiian atmosphere, it's a nice change of pace.
I don't know, man. Dale Cooper seems to really like his trees.
Yeah, that's great for Dale Cooper. And then we'll ask you in a moment your overall thoughts on the episode.
Who is we? You is you.
I am a royal we. I'm a royalty. I wanted to also ask one last question. Semi-serious, semi-silly. In the Log Lady intro that we watched, she said, behind all things are reasons. Reasons can even explain the absurd. So I'm asking you a twofold question. One, I'm asking, do you agree with that statement? And then two, what really went on between Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys, and who really shot JFK? So it's kind of a multifaceted question.
Mm-hmm. So you'll have to repeat the second part to me, but no, after this,
I will.
But as far as that, yeah, reasons can try to explain the absurd. It doesn't mean that there's going to be any connection. So yeah, the log lady has a lot to say. I don't necessarily think that there is anything much larger said from it. But
you do believe that at the end of the day, all things can be explained with reasons.
Everything can be explained. It's just whether or not it makes sense.
Okay.
Citing the absurd.
Okay. Interesting. And then my next question was the question that was plaguing Cooper's mind this episode. What exactly went on between Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys? And who really pulled the trigger on JFK?
I don't know much about Monroe's and the Kennedys. I don't look too much into it, but the sense that he is curious about things even towards conspiracy theory, I think that it's overall a good mental exercise Dale Cooper does to keep himself on top.
And despite how omniscient Dale Cooper can sometimes seem, he also does not know the answer to what happened to the Kennedys.
Yeah, I'm sure that if he was a little bit closer, maybe he would, but for now, there are no notes under their fingertips, so escaped him this time.
All right, so I would like to ask you final two questions. I want to know what
wasn't the last one the final question?
Those were the questions on the list.
Okay,
sir.
Okay. How many more? Okay, go ahead and ask your next list of
my
final
questions. I want to know what you thought of the episode overall, as well as who killed Laura Palmer. Your theory as of episode 1, which is episode 2.
Okay, this episode. Oh, I hated it. No, this one. It was pretty good. Again, it's just starting to lay some more groundwork, and I'm getting some more favorite characters. Still, Donna and James are kind of the dipping point for me. They're the most average thing at best in this. They seem to be more so plot elements more than they are people.
Okay.
I'm curious about more of the mystery that is going to be coming at me, hopefully soon. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So who killed Laura Palmer?
The Great Cthulhu. I think that now there's this great eldritch power that is influencing the minds of our youth. At this point, I think that it's Laura Palmer is dealing with larger things than herself. So the joke is the Great Cthulhu. The not-so joke is something very, very strange. And I'm not going to say someone yet.
So your first episode, the pilot, you said it was probably Dale Cooper?
Yeah, this time.
And now you've moved to some inexplicable, mysterious force.
I think that overall Dale Cooper is chasing something very, very weird. And I think that that's what's going to get him stuck for the most part. Again, he seems very ahead of the game on most of the details. So I think that the only thing that can stop like Dale Cooper in his tracks is going to be something that is very, very different, odd, and off-putting
like a
from
Decepticon.
Normal logic. Yes, the great Decepticon.
Well, wherever Cooper may be following the trail, we will certainly be following him. And if you'd like to follow us, I don't know if we have social media, but you can email us at snakeeyedreams@gmail.com.
No spaces.
No spaces, and that is Snake Eye Dreams.
Not Snake Eye as in person, but Snake Eye as the eye of the snake.
Okay, Lucy, thank you. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful and strange adventure. We look forward to seeing you, well, knowing that you're hearing us without physically seeing you next time.
Goodbye.